kingdom in a mixed up world. You're in the sweet spot, baby. You're in the sweet spot, girl. You're in the sweet spot, darling. It's a magical kingdom in a mixed up world. You're in the sweet spot, baby. You're in the sweet spot, girl. You're in the sweet spot, darling. It's a magical kingdom in a mixed up world. It's a magical kingdom in a mixed up world. It's a magical kingdom in a mixed up world.
Welcome to the Sweep Spot Podcast. My name is Lynn, your host, and Ken's my co-host. Ken, how's it going?
Oh, Lynn, it is going. It is going. I am so glad to be here, and I'm looking forward to this episode.
That's right. Ken and I are former Disneyland Custodial cast members, and we host the #1 Disneyland podcast, hosted by two former Disneyland custodians.
Number one. Sorry.
Wow. Excited.
Number one. Yeah.
We're also authors of the books Cleaning the Kingdom. We have 2 volumes out. You can get those on paperback on our website, thesweetspot.com, and those are signed, or you can get them non-signed on Amazon. Also, you get digital copies wherever digital copies are found, like Kindle, and then you can also get the audio versions of the books narrated by Ken, wherever audiobooks are found.
Yes. So don't let that stop you that I read it. But, but if you're one of our listeners, and clearly you are, and you haven't had a chance to read the books, you got to do it.
Yes. We talk a lot about our time working at Disneyland through the podcast over the years, but there's certain things that we haven't talked about that are only in the books. So
That's right.
Also, if you want to help support our show, we really appreciate those that are continuing to do that, and we never take that for granted. And that is, you can join our Patreon at $5 or more a month. You can get 1 bonus episode per month delivered to you, and we have a lot of fun recording those, and I think you'll enjoy listening to them. And also, you can join in the chat room on our current event show once a month, where you can interact with us through a chat, and we'll include some of your comments into the show. That has been on hiatus, as we like to say.
Hiatus.
But it will be returning, or at least we'll give it another shot next month. But no, it should be up and working fine. I had some help, so that will be available next month in June. So
Yay.
yeah. Well, by the time you listen to this, it will be June. That'll be later this month. Also, if you'd like to get a discount at Howard Johnson, I've always talked about the Hojo Anaheim on our website, and I've stayed there many times when we go to Disneyland. You get we have a promo code. You can go on our website, thesweepspot.com, and you click on the banner there, and it'll direct you to some special prices. Or if you just want to work with me directly, I can help you book the Howard Johnson and your Disney trips. So yeah. See, anything else I need to mention? I think that's it. Ken, who's our guest tonight?
Well, Lynn, we are welcoming back Freddy Martin. Freddy Martin is with Storyland Studios. He's a communicator, strategist, and leader. He worked as a ride operator at Disneyland way back when. And so we're going to talk about a few things, including the Society of Explorers and Adventurers, which you may or may not have heard about.
Yeah, this is also a little late, but it's also episode 360.
What? It's 360?
That's right.
Lynn, that is absolutely incredible and amazing, and I'm glad you brought that up.
No.
Hard to believe.
It really is. So yeah, we have a lot going on, and I think you're really going to enjoy this, and let's get right into it. Looking to book a vacation to Disneyland Resort, Walt Disney World Resort, Disney Cruise Line, Disney Alani, Disneyland Paris, Adventures by Disney, Universal Studios Hollywood, Universal Studios Orlando, then I can do that for you. If you contact me and we can talk about all the different options and dates, and we can kind of even make recommendations on which days might be the best for you to go. And also as a complimentary, when you book with us, we will book your dining for you if you'd like, special events. And we also, when we book a vacation for you, we just don't say have a good time after we book it for you. We are there every step of the way. We contact you before your trip to make sure everything's squared away. We even have a checklist to make sure that you have everything you need. Reservations, dining, all these different things. Your transportation, if you need help with that from the airport, any of those sort of things, we can help you with that too. We want to make the vacation the best it can be for you, because I know that vacations aren't cheap, and we can help you do that. So if you contact me, that's Lynn, and the email is lbarron@concierge.com. That's LBARRON @concierge.com, or you can go to the sweepspot.com, and there's a link on our front page there. You can click on that and there's information on how to contact me. But I'd love to talk to you and help you book the best vacation possible.
This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928. The weather here this morning is hot and humid. A typhoon warning has been issued for coastal areas near the South China Sea, and a storm watch has been posted along the coast of eastern Africa.
Let's all sing like the birdies sing. Tweet, 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 tweet. Let's all sing like the birdies sing. Sweet, 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 sweet. Let's all warble like nightingales. Give your throat a treat. Now you time from the birds. Now you all know the words. Tweet, 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 tweet. Some folks sing opera, some folks sing flat.
So, Freddie, why don't you, we've had you on before, and it's been a little while, so I thought this would be a good time for you to refresh our listeners on, you were a former cast member, and kind of talk a little bit about that.
Great. Yeah, thanks. It was great to be on with you guys before. I remember I didn't have all the tech set up, so I was just on my phone. And we were staying at a friend's house, and so I had to sequester myself up, and I could hear everybody outside having fun in the pool. So
that's right.
This time I don't have any FOMO, fear of missing out. I'm I'm here all for you guys. So I was at Disneyland in 1989 and 1990 as an Adventureland Frontierland cast member, attractions host. Back in the day, Adventureland Frontierland was the grouping of attractions. It was Department 951, and we that meant I was trained to work on Jungle Cruise first, and then very quickly I shouldn't say that. Parade Route always comes first for attractions people.
Yeah.
But Parade Route was only there while I was doing my training, and to get extra hours on the clock. Jungle Cruise I was trained on, then Tiki Room and Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse, which were a dual shift. You did both of those on the same shift at that time. And then when I moved over to Frontierland, Shootin' Arcade was a all-day spot for one person. All we did was had a pockets full of change for people who couldn't figure out how to use the change machine. And then I was trained on Columbia the sailing ship Columbia and Big Thunder Mountain. Never got trained on the Mark Twain. I'm sorry about that. That would have been my hat trick, I suppose.
Yeah.
And back then there was, I would have considered them Frontierland, but there was the Mike Fink keelboats and canoes, but those were all considered Critter Country or Bear Country at the time.
Very good. Yeah. So you were there just before Ken started in 1990.
Yeah, we were probably crossing brooms at the time in 1990. I was there all summer and into the fall, 1990.
Yeah, before I was working there, I was there all the time as a guest, but they started in the summer of 90, and I was usually working in New Orleans Critter. So, yeah.
Oh yeah. So we crisscrossed. Our break room was up behind the Loud Bang poster art or painted art of that dragon that's there. It wasn't there at the time, but right behind the Riverbell Terrace, upstairs behind the Riverbell Terrace was where our break room was at that time. And we played a lot of Galaga.
That's right. They had video games up there.
That's right. And
real video games.
Yeah, Xenomorph came out then, which was an alien killing game. And they got all of us Jungle Cruise skippers to spend all of our hard-earned money. As we earned it, we would pour it into those machines.
Wow.
If you weren't good at it, you you could do an hour's worth of Disneyland pay in 15 minutes.
You worked Tiki Room, you mentioned? Was that correct?
Tiki Room. Yeah. Tiki Room was the best, man. I would say that. Actually, if I had a favorite, if I could go back right now, I'd love to go to Jungle Cruise, but driving the Columbia was such a treat. Really was a treat. Tiki Room. Tiki Room was great because the air condition. It was a real low key attraction. I mean, it's just one button, and Jungle Cruises it takes a lot. You got your spiel, you got your mind on the guests, you got your head on safety. You're running the boat, you're loading your gun and firing, all that stuff. It's a multitasker's ride. But Tiki Room, we would just go in there and push the button. It was fun to learn how to take a nap from some other cast members. I bet you probably, I know you guys are explorers, but you may have explored the kitchen for the Tahitian Terrace between the back of the Tiki Room, linked up with that. So there's a door there that went right into that kitchen. Yes. And that's how we came in and out of the room during the show if we needed to. But you were supposed to be there during the show to watch for any issues. But we had like a tall boy stool chair, and if you leaned it against that door, that was the only place a supervisor would try to come in. So they'd wake you up before you'd be found out.
That's funny.
Clever, very clever. Yeah, that's a tight complex. Tiki Room, at the time it was Tahitian Terrace and the Plaza Pavilion.
Yeah. It was beautiful back there because it was super, there was no restaurant going at the time for Tahitian Terrace. So it was just a big empty stainless steel, beautiful, cool kitchen. And it reminds me of the Jurassic Park scene where the kids are in the kitchen. Right. A little bit spooky in there because it's so quiet.
Yeah.
And of course, the best bathroom in all the parks is right there as well.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Quietest solo bathroom.
Was there just two cast members on that attraction for Tiki?
So we were a rotation of 4. You had somebody at the turnstile. We had a turnstile at that point because they were still counting people at the entry, and so somebody was there greeting people, telling them because we didn't have a Barker bird, so we had to tell people what was inside, and then somebody inside the room, and then somebody on break in that rotation, and then somebody at Swiss Family Treehouse.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very good. Yeah, Tinker is one of my favorite. I don't know. There's just something, I guess it goes back to Walt, actually, obviously, that I love so much about it. And they haven't changed a whole lot. I know they've changed the show a little bit, but for the most part, it's still intact,
Yeah, it really feels untouched in a lot of ways. I do miss the Offenbach song.
Yeah.
But I can listen to that on my record. My
Well,
LP
you stay off in my box and I'll stay off of yours.
Teed you up for that one.
I did have a question about that attraction. Didn't you you know how you do the first spiel like before the show starts? Is it on like a timer or how did that work?
Yeah. No, so it's not. That when you push the button, and I wish I could remember what the timing was, but it's just a few seconds. You push the button. In fact, what we would do is we were taught to come out to the room, get everybody's attention, and then you would sort of step back, hit the button, and start walking towards Jose to wake him up. So it's really in that timing, but you would get used to it. Sometimes he would step on your line, and sometimes you would say it too early, and he'd wake up. It would seem weird, so you'd just keep tapping. We had this long piece of bamboo, and we would just tap his perch, tap, 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 tap. Just a little bit longer.
That's funny. Well,
yeah.
I know one thing you had mentioned when we were talking, about you coming on the show was talking about something that I don't know too much about, and that was the Society of Explorers and Adventurers.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
What is that?
What is that? The Society of Explorers and Adventurers. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of your listeners have some hint of it. There's a lot of people out there who are really into it and finding the hints and the clues. More of us are secret. We like to keep the secret. Some of us like to share the secret. It's one of those things, kind of like the lamp in Walt's apartment on Main Street that gives you sort of something to share with your friends. Hey, look at that! Isn't that neat to know about that? And so that's the way the Imagineers built the Society of Explorers and Adventurers into the parks, is just these subtle hints about these different people who happen to live and work in the world of the Disney parks. And it started in Tokyo Disney Sea, where they built this whole lore and program around the idea that Tokyo Disney Sea is built around this big, beautiful castle on the edge of the water. And it was within those walls that these early adventurers sort of came together to share their treasures and share the ideas of exploration and inspire one another to go further and explore and seek out adventure, seek out treasure, and very much a early Indiana Jones type. And they claim that they go all the way back to Leonardo da Vinci and Magellan and all of those folks. And so it's very blatant at Tokyo Disney Sea. In fact, they tease that the S.E.A, Society of Explorers and Adventurers, is how Tokyo Disney Sea gets its name. And there's parts that aren't tied into that, but right now they have the most recent attraction that they added there. Their version of Soarin' is a version that centers around this character called Camellia Falco. And Camellia Falco, her family was into aviation early on, trying to figure out how to take humankind on flights of wonder. And so that's how the storyline that they don't have Patrick Warburton leading you into it. They have this story of all of people's ideas of flight from centuries before, and that mankind has always wanted to fly. So it's really, really cool. And it first started to show its face at Disneyland. The very first location of it was when they expanded the Bengal barbecue into a dining area. And they moved, they got rid of all that stroller parking back during, what was it called? Sparkle Up. It was the Star Wars. Oh goodness, what was it that time when they were called? Stardust, during the Stardust campaign.
Project Stardust.
Project Stardust. To get rid of, to make Disneyland better, so that when and cleaner and make wider pathways and all of that stuff, get rid of stroller parking or hide stroller parking, so that when Galaxy's Edge opened up, they were ready for the capacity of people that they were going after. So part of Project Stardust was making the Bengal barbecue into a dining area so that people could sit down and eat their bacon wrapped asparagus. And so inside that room, and you can see this stuff now, they put several things. One of them, like the first hint, there's a shelf that has a portrait. It's got some letters, and then there's a portrait of a guy named Blauerhimmel. And Blauerhimmel is a guy, he's got flight goggles on, and he may have been he doesn't have a ton of backstory, but he's part of the Society of Explorers and Adventurers, and he's really into flight as well. But his picture's up in there. And then as you continue around the room, you'll find a painting of the Society of Explorers and Adventurers from 1899. And it's a painted portrait, and you see a bunch of different characters. And among those characters are several characters from the Asian parks, and which includes Harrison Hightower, who you may have heard of, who is modeled after Joe Rohde. And then there's one modeled over Joe Lancicero, who's an Imagineer, and then one modeled after Tony Baxter, which is Barnabas T. Bullion. Have you heard of him?
Yes.
So Barnabas T. Bullion owns the Big Thunder Mining Company, and so he's known for being a little bit too greedy and wanting to take too much from the land, and the mountain gets its revenge by spitting out the mining ore trains all the time, and causing all kinds of trouble within the mountain. So that's his story. And
don't they have a picture of him in Big Thunder at Disney World?
They do, in the queue at Big Thunder Mountain. They do, but here's a secret: they also have one at Disneyland. Oh, and you can find it in the the very first building in Rainbow Ridge, which is that little town that you come into at the very end of Big Thunder Mountain. That room there, the very first building, is a hotel. I'm trying to remember the name of the hotel. It's like the Orcart Motel or Hotel or something like that. Inside that one, on the wall, is a picture of it's the Panhandle Hotel. You can see, if you go by at nighttime when the lights are on inside, you can see the portrait of Barnabas T. Bullion.
Oh wow!
Also, it's subtle, baby. It is. It's one of those Easter eggs you have to really look for, because you go by too fast. And then later on in that room, this is where, like, my thirst and hunger for the Society of Explorers and Adventurers at Disneyland really took it up a notch. So there's a portrait in there, and I don't know if you've noticed it, but maybe you have, of Katharine Hepburn and oh my goodness, African Queen, Humphrey Bogart. Humphrey Bogart and Katharine Hepburn. There's a picture of them, which looks like it's from the movie The African Queen, which the Jungle Cruise was based on. Have you seen this? Have you seen the picture?
No, I haven't. No.
Okay,
I'm going to look for it now.
Yeah, you have to look for it. It's in the Bengal barbecue dining area.
Right.
And it's on a wall behind a table. So usually, in order to get a good look, you got to stand over a family who's trying to force down their food. Yeah. But in the picture, and this is really, really, really cool. In the picture, they're in a Jungle Cruise boat. So you can see the poles, the white poles, and it's from the time when I was around, not the brown Jungle Cruise boats as they are now, but white back then with stripes on the canopy.
Oh yeah.
And they look intense. They look like they're on an adventure. But if you look on the dock box in the middle of the boat, there's a picture on that dock box, and that picture is a picture of Dr. Albert Falls. Now, how do we know what Dr. Albert Falls looks like? My daughter works at the Skipper Canteen in Adventureland in Magic Kingdom over in Florida. And there's a portrait of that same portrait of Dr. Albert Falls there. So you have to assume that Hepburn and Bogart are on the search for Dr. Albert Falls because he's been missing. And so, and not only that, sitting on the bench next to them is a monkey. And that monkey is the monkey from the Mystic Manor at which is the haunted mansion in Disneyland Hong Kong, I want to say. I'll get that wrong. Somebody will tell you. They'll tell you, and you can tell me if I got that wrong.
No, I think it's right.
Well, they and then of course the big reveal in that same picture. This is all in one picture. Is you can see the rhino treeing all of the explorers, and it's possible, but I've been told that it's not, but it looks like it might be Dr. Albert Falls on the top of that tower. I choose to believe that it's him. He's the first one to get treed by that rhino. So it's really a great story. And then if you go into Tahitian Tropical Hideaway, there's a bunch of oars hanging on the wall by where you check it out. If you look at all of the brass plaques on all of those oars, they say the name of a Society of Explorers and Adventurers name, and the location where they had their big excursion and the year in which they had that excursion. And the oars give you some hint as to how they died or how they met the end of their little excursion. So it's pretty beautiful, and that's the way it is in the parks around the world.
I'm understanding it now. Okay.
And more and more and more.
And so you had mentioned what was the cantina in Adventureland? So there's Disney World has other references, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
At Magic Kingdom and Disney World, there's a restaurant called the Skipper Canteen, Jungle Navigation Company Skipper Canteen.
Oh, okay.
And my daughter Penny works there at the moment. And it is totally fitted out. It's as though the Jungle Cruise skippers have to have a place to eat. So this is their big cafeteria. And so you go inside, and all the relics and things that they've found are in there. And there's a portrait of Dr. Albert Falls, and there's a portrait of Alberta Falls in there. And you could read their certificates of best in the jungle. And it's pretty tremendous. And it's got 3 rooms. One is for the Jungle Cruise skippers as characters to eat in. And then there's a room that you can get your dining reservation in, which is the private dining area of Dr. Albert Falls. And that's a little more elegant, and it's got a china cabinet and all kinds of fun stuff, and with little jokes and hints all around it. And then there's a Society of Explorers and Adventurers secret boardroom where you can eat, which is behind a hidden bookshelf. And in the bookshelf, it's got a ton of hilarious titles of the books, which you have to explore it to see it to enjoy.
Yeah, there's probably photos online of it, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, well, hey, let me plug myself real quick before they go searching for photos online. Go to freddymartin.net. That's my blog. And there's a link at the top called the S.E.A. It says the S.E.A. That's a little secret link on my website, and you can hop in there and learn about several of the different characters, including Barnabas T. Bullion, Dr. Albert Falls, Jason Chandler, who you'll have to figure out more about him as you go, and more to come.
That is really cool. Yeah, definitely check that out.
I got photos. Photos of the books and some cool AI art of the various characters based on the stories that you kind of pick up as you go through there. So pretty fun.
Wow, I'm enticed to look into this more now. I did have a question though. Do you think that, and maybe you already know this for a fact, but the Adventureland treehouse is in the
Oh.
making right now. Do you
Yeah.
think there's going to be some kind of reference to this?
I
in
I do in the concept art. You can see a Society of Explorers and Adventurers flag hanging over one of the railings.
Oh,
And
okay.
so you get it's called the Adventureland Treehouse, and some of the backstory of the family that lives in that treehouse gives you a sense that they're very adventurous people, that they're not just trapped on an island like the Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse making the best of it. They're there to have adventures. So some of the kids are into animals, some of them are into looking at the sky, some of them are into insects. So all of that gets sort of tied in. And so I'm gonna put down a big bet that when that opens up, it's gonna be a big revelation of who the society is and how they're living and working among us even as we speak.
Yeah, I'm hoping they have some interactive, they're talking so much about, interactivity and things and the cues and lines. And I hope that they do add that to that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the only interactivity that was there in the past was you could, if you walked up close enough to that leopard, it would roar at you.
Right.
Or you could pull on the pulleys and make music downstairs, but
that too, yeah. So, well, it was interactive when it was the Swiss Family Treehouse, and you played with the water, the running water that was going
that would come down
through
all
the treehouse.
Yeah,
I loved that. One of my favorite, I may have mentioned this before, but the on the previous episode, but when I would get cast at Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse, our job was to, when you got there, you just stood at the entrance right by this trash can and just let people go in and say no food or drinks. So that's why you're standing by the trash can, so they could throw their food or drinks into it. And then people would go on up to the top, and then at the end of your 15 to half hour shift at that spot, you would walk the tree and just make sure that there's no trash or anything, that anybody got lost or sick or anything up there.
Yeah.
And then come back down and report it to you guys. But while I would stand there on that trash can, Disneyland trash cans. This is a big hack or insider thing. Disneyland trash cans sound like a really cool snare drum.
Yeah.
So if you tap your hands on top of that, so I would listen to the Swiska polka, and I would tap my hands, tap my hands on the trash can. I would be like the backup rhythm to that. My entire time I was there, I was learning how to play drums.
That's funny. I did want to mention something that I thought of as you were talking here, and we'll come back to always come back to your times working there and the stories. But I wanted you to talk a little bit about Adventureland Days.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, is that something that you started or a group of people?
It's not. It was started by Tiki Tony Murphy, who's a tiki artist. He does like big wooden tikis, and he does tiki mugs and all kinds of fun stuff, and has done some artwork for the park. He did there was a tiki month at Club 33 that he got to decorate inside Club 33. So he's a known commodity among those folks, but he's really he loves Adventureland, and he had heard that people had done some similar dress up days. But Adventureland Day is an annual dress up day to come dressed as your best Indiana Jones or Jungle Cruise skipper or Tiki Bird woman covered in flowers and all this stuff. It's just everybody comes out dressed to the nines to play in the park. We have a bunch of fun hunts, scavenger hunts. There's a map, there's clues, there's all kinds of great stuff that everybody, and at the end everybody gets a free prize. It's pretty incredible. This last time, I want to say there was 1,000 people there. I mean, all dressed up, and people are walking up to you going, "What in the world are you guys dressed up for? It's Adventureland Day." Just imagine like getting dressed up like that in whether you're in zebra print or you're in all khakis, and then they load boat after boat after boat after boat with all of us Adventurelanders, and they're all ready to laugh. Like, it's the best, laughingest jungle cruise you can go on is when.
I bet the skippers love that.
Oh
that
my
day.
goodness, they
Yeah.
do. They totally get into it. We love it. It happens in March every year. Actually, last year was the first time back after pandemic stuff, and but it was as big as ever. And they've asked me a couple years in a row to lead the Adventurers Club theme song, which comes from the Adventurers Club in Pleasure Island that used to be in Florida. And so I lead that song, blast out my voice for the love of Adventureland.
I've seen videos of that, and I thought, what in the world is he singing? Okay, now I get it. That's funny. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I've kind of not been able to go, but I've kind of watched on social media all the, as it has grown, and like you were saying, over 1,000 people this time.
It's you think of the Dapper Days or Bats Day. It's a dress up day for people with a certain kind of affinity towards dress up and fun and cosplay and all of that stuff. So
that's cool.
It's really, really neat.
So I thought of something as you were mentioning that. So is there any ties at oh man, I'm lost for names also tonight. Trader Sam's. Is there anything?
Oh yeah.
Is there?
Yeah, for Society of Explorers and Adventurers. Yeah, there are. It's mostly from the Adventurers Club that's in there, but there's a lot of postcards in there to read and to look for, and Trader Sam, because his story gets tied up in and with Society of Explorers and Adventurers all the time. He's naturally a grandfathered in, I suppose, character of the S.E.A. So if he runs a bar at Disneyland Hotel, he's likely part of the society, or at least a friend of the society.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just thought of that because I know that you mentioned Tiki, Adventurer, that it all kind of ties together, and I know everyone loves Trader Sam. So.
Oh yeah. And we, I'm on the Backside of Water podcast, and our every year we do an episode about the Society of Explorers and Adventurers, and we've been telling a long epic in those episodes, so you have to wait a year to hear the next one, wait a year to hear the next one. But they're big adventurous stories about all of the characters, and we're in peril at any given time, having to leap off the branches of the Adventureland treehouse. So yeah, it's
wow, into
the murky waters and escape the crocodiles.
It's one of those things that there has to be somebody in charge who's inside the company who knows about it, so that it keeps going rather than gets removed or neglected, or there have to be people who are still inside the company that can keep it going.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's what's been interesting about it, what makes it even more exciting and sometimes fun to catch the little sneaks in there, is that it wasn't initially it doesn't have an official background. It doesn't have an official story. It has some things, so they can put a name here on a crate. The Jungle Cruise queue now is loaded with S.E.A. Lore and stuff. They've added it in the past couple years. They added it with the redo of the Jungle Cruise and the updating of it. And so you just add somebody's name. You don't get to know necessarily what the full story is, but it's enough to say, oh, I know who that guy is. That's the guy who went with Dr. Albert Falls to such and such. And you kind of piece these things together. So not having a collected history of it, that they at least can't conflict with each other, right? So you can't have something where it's this guy's in this area and he doesn't go with this area. Some people have estimated that there's probably a tie-in to the Imagination Institute with Dr. Wayne Zelinsky and all of that stuff from Honey, I Shrunk the Audience and the Imagination Pavilion in Disney World. So there's possibilities of more story to keep going. And you mentioned like that people don't throw it away. One of the main pieces, one of the first pieces that was at Disneyland was there was a red stagecoach over near the entry to Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah.
And on that was a crate, and on the crate was a tag, and on the tag it said Jason Chandler, who was really the first character that Tony Baxter and team added for the Discovery Island concept. And he's
Discovery Bay.
Discovery Bay, sorry. And
Discovery Island. Yeah, that's Discovery Island was the island that was over in Walt Disney World.
That's right. So the Discovery Bay story centers around this guy, Jason Chandler. And Jason Chandler had a package over there, which was great because it looked like the stagecoach was heading into, a galaxy far, far away. Like it was pointing into Galaxy's Edge, which makes sense. This character, I'm sounding like such a nerd, but this character, Jason Chandler might have, gotten off of the stagecoach and wandered into space, which is what an explorer and adventurer would do. Anyway, that stagecoach isn't there as of my last visit, so I'm kind of bummed to see one of the early S.E.A. References taken away.
Hopefully they're just refurbing it and they'll put it back.
Maybe, yeah.
Cool.
I kind of worry about things like that because years ago, after Herb Ryman passed away, there was a tree planted in his memory by Sleeping Beauty Castle.
Yeah,
and not everybody in landscaping knew about that, and it got removed.
Wow.
And I knew one guest in particular who went straight to City Hall when she noticed and filed a complaint and just said, you removed Herb's tree.
Yeah.
They replanted it. There's one there with the little.
They
sign.
planted another one. Yeah.
It's funny. That's left hand not knowing what the right hand's doing.
Yeah.
So
that's why I say there's got to be somebody. There should be an internal Bible for it, and just something.
I'm sure there is now. I'm sure there is now. So like the Mystic Manor, which is the Haunted Mansion in Asia in Hong Kong, and the Harrison Hightower, or the Tower of Terror in Tokyo. They're both, the story is 100% tied in. Like those queues and the ride are all loaded up with S.E.A. stuff. So at least there it'll have to hold because that's built around its story. Elsewhere, it might fade away. But, they put him in pretty permanently. Like one of the new characters that's on the Rhino pole is, his name's Takashi, I think. Anyway, he's the entomologist with all the butterflies. He's a S.E.A. member.
Oh, okay.
So it's wild. And they started making a book series for kids featuring some of these characters. So it's gotta be, like you said, a Bible.
Books, and I figure, hey, get some Marvel comic books going too.
Yeah, that's right. Well, actually, they did. The Barnabas T. Bullion story and Jason Chandler story are explored in the Marvel Big Thunder Mountain series. So it's 5 books. Right. Yeah, 5 comics about that.
That's what I was going to ask you. What you thought the future is for this? I mean, how far can they? I mean, what more can they?
It's funny because it's like if you want to have something fun that people find, like the Little Man at Disneyland, right? They're not going to make a Little Man at Disneyland movie.
No.
And they shouldn't. But if they did, they'd have to put in a whole lot more than just that little tiny thing. So if they blow up the Society of Explorers and Adventurers and make a big blockbuster movie, then it'll probably suffer a little bit. It's kind of like when Pirates of the Caribbean came out, it was pretty faithful to the ride And then the ride took on all of those things that made it now a ride about the movie instead of a movie about a ride. And so
Right.
you lose something there that is not necessarily quantifiable, but doesn't let your imagination take over. You're sort of forced to adopt what the movie did for you.
You know what I think of? I kind of relate to it in this way because I'm a musician and I've been around music a lot. But it's like your favorite band before they made it big.
Yeah.
Isn't it kind of like that? It's like you almost don't want it to blow up because
Exactly.
you like it,
Yeah. I knew them before. I knew them when they were cool. Yeah, there's 7 million people who say they knew them before they were cool.
Yeah, it's like your little secret. You know about this and all these characters, and not everyone does. It's kind of neat. If it blows up, then it kind of loses that.
Yeah, that's right.
They could do a Disney Plus series or something like that.
Yeah, I could see him doing it. But it's funny. It's so weird about like I don't think people like we like the rides and stuff. We like the movies that come out, but the Jungle Cruise movie, as much as it was a big blockbuster, it changes the ride. It changes the experience of the ride. It's got too much magic almost to it, and now that's tied to it, and I don't know that it necessarily helped the park experience. What do you think?
I mean, is there a tie from the movie in the? Well, there's references of.
Yeah,
is that what you mean?
Yeah, there's a couple Q references. That's okay, but in the ride itself, it's not. Well, they had to hide Trader Sam because Trader Sam in the movie is a South American witch doctor, not the two different kinds that were. There's a Trader Sam at Disneyland and a Trader Sam in Florida, and they were totally different guys, which is kind of fun. It's nice to think that Trader Sam is more like who's that? What's a superhero that has lots of different people who play him, like
Batman,
Green Lantern or something? Or,
Batman.
Yeah, that's right. Or Robin. It's like Robin. He's always somebody else, a different.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Person in the costume.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see. Was there any references in the movie to the Explorers?
They had a society, but it wasn't the same one. We were looking for it. I can't remember if there was anything blatant, but it was sort of felt like they were trying to tee it up.
Okay. I always wonder, like, there's got to be just certain Imagineers that really know about it and want to insert things about it, but there's some that don't know or don't care.
Right. Right. Well, it all has to get some of them really do. I don't know if have you ever talked to Kevin Lively?
Oh.
He's a former Imagineer and Jungle Cruise skipper. He's a cool cat, and he has done a lot of the work, just like Brandon Clayla did with Trader Sam and all of that, with tying together lore and bringing back certain references. What I understand, I might be speaking out of school, but Kevin Lively, one of his last jobs there was doing a lot of the creative design for Mickey's Runaway Railway, the movie theater section in the queue. And there's some of the references in there that are deep cuts, man, real deep cuts. And you're like, wow, that was really clever. I'm glad it was in the hands of somebody like Kevin so that you didn't miss out on the fun.
Oh, that's good to know.
You want me to tell you one of them?
Sure. Yeah, I'd love it.
I hate to do it because it's one of these fun secrets that only I can, only a few people can point out. But the little man at Disneyland. Do you know what his name is?
Yeah, but I can't think of it now.
Patrick Bagora.
Patrick. Yeah.
Bagora. Well, when you go into the movie theater, that is the queue line for Mickey's Runaway Railway. There's you buy your hot dogs, there's rolling hot dogs and stuff, and it's on the counter, and then there's a counter with ketchup, mustard, and relish.
Right.
And I think there's two different kinds of relish, or maybe it's horseradish and mustard, and the label on it, instead of being Heinz, says Bagora Farms. And Patrick Bagora was the guy who lived at Disneyland before Disneyland was here. So naturally, he went into business making his famous relish and mustard, and so that's pretty cool. So
I love that.
Little
Yeah,
Man of Disneyland has a life outside of Adventureland.
that is cool. I always love hearing about those little things because I think I know it. You know, I don't think I know it all, but I know a lot about Disneyland. But I don't. Every time I learn something, like, wow, that is so neat.
Like, wow, mind blown. It's something to look for. If anybody sees it, tag me in a picture. I want to.
Okay.
I'd love to see other people finding those things.
Yeah. Well, I'll be there in a month, so I'm gonna look for all this stuff.
Got to check it out, Lynn.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
sure.
Definitely.
I wanted to talk a little bit about what you're doing now and kind of plug some stuff before we go.
Sure. So I have the real privilege of working in themed entertainment industry. I've never been an Imagineer. I suppose that's something that I would love to do someday.
Yeah.
And get my hard hat and name tag, but I really love where I work right now, though, so it'd be really tough to move over, especially since they're going through so much right now. But I work for a place called Storyland Studios, and we're a experience design company. We create destinations that lift the spirit, is what we call it. And so that gives us an opportunity to work on different brand homes or brand experiences, as well as full theme parks, rides and attractions. We've been involved in a lot of the attractions that get made. We're not allowed to say any of the ones that we work on because the two biggest companies with the two biggest theme park companies like to say that they're the ones who did it, and they're right. They guided it, they led it, but there's an entire industry of folks who are doing doing some of the detail work, and so we get to work on stuff like that, designing things. Actually, one of the fun ones that we did recently, and just sort of on a small scale, was we redid the pizza shop in the Roaring 20 section of Big Thunder Mountain of Knott's Berry Farm. I don't know why Big Thunder Mountain came out. To me, Big Thunder Mountain, if you ever went far enough down into the mine, you might come up at Calico at Knott's Berry Farm. I'll just say that's why I said Big Thunder Mountain, maybe. But there's a pizza shop called the Prop Shop in right next to the Good Time Theater, and we did the redesign for that. They're still building upon it. Some of the design ideas that we had for them didn't get implemented in time for them to open, so we've been anxiously waiting and excited to see every time they add something new that we recommended. And so it's very cool to be a part of that industry. I'm what they call a producer, and so I get to lead the team, listen to what the client or the park owner wants, and then me and my design teams work on how to bring it to life.
That's right. We had Mel on last
right.
month or so. Yeah. And he talked a little bit about it also. I forgot about it. Yeah. You guys worked together.
Yeah. Mel McGowan and I worked there. He's the chief creative officer. I'm one of the producers underneath him that do these projects. We're doing stuff all over the world, guys. Latin America, Europe, Africa, working on a sort of I don't know if you know this, but Nigeria has one of the biggest film industries in the world. They call it Nollywood, and Nollywood is huge. And so there's a company there that wants to create a Universal Studios type tour and backlot tour and attraction there. And we got to do the initial concept designs for that. And in the Middle East, we have several projects going, so it's pretty exciting to be part of that. Mel and I also we if you want to learn more about direct industry stuff, we do the Themed Attraction podcast, Mel's the long time. He worked at Disney and he's got tons of experience. So he plays the insider. He knows all the information, and I play the, oh wow, golly gee, Dad, that's fun. That's pretty cool. We interview lots of luminaries. We've had Tony Baxter and Tom K. Morris on there, Joe Cicero, as well as some other just regional theme park folks who have created amazing attractions, SeaWorld and stuff like that. So it's really neat. And so, yeah, I would encourage anybody, if they want to listen to me blab on some more, the Themed Attraction podcast and the Backside of Water podcast, which I do with my buddy Alex Stewart and Annie Rugit and Mike Mulligan, and my son even edits the show, so it's pretty fun.
Oh, neat!
Fun podcast there where we take you around all the Disneyland rides, one at a time, giving the history. We're only in Tomorrowland. We had intended to loop Tomorrowland, go to Main Street and out of the park, but then they added Galaxy's Edge, so now we got to leave Tomorrowland, go to Galaxy's Edge. It takes us years to get to a new land, and now they just redid the Jungle Cruise and Toontown, so we got to blow them all up again. We were on a great roll, but now everything's changed.
Now you have to go back. Then you have to go back to Adventureland once that treehouse is done too.
Oh yeah, man! I was really hoping it would be open by Adventureland Day this year. But when it does, I'll be there.
They haven't said much about it. It's been interesting they haven't really said anything about an opening date or really any too much information about it.
Yeah, they had a teased opening date back in February, and then it disappeared. It went off the calendar. So they must be doing something good up there.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, Freddie, thank you so much for coming on. We'll definitely have you back again.
Man, it was fun. I appreciate the opportunity to hang out with you guys. You guys are legends. You kind of opened the door for a lot of us podcasters in a lot of ways, just taking a niche conversation, which you would think would be niche, but just loaded with information and background and fun, and brings us all back to the park in a real good way. I mean, I just really love what you guys do.
Okay, wow, what an episode. I really enjoyed talking to Freddie.
Yeah, I mean, I get to say this quite often, but we could just go on and on and on, but we have to be mindful of the time that our listeners don't have forever, and neither do our guests. So we want to just keep things at a length that's comfortable for everybody, and we've got a growing list of people we'll have to have back on the show.
I know. I say that a lot to our guests, like, hey, we have to have you back, and I have a list. So yeah, for sure. Sure, we'll have Freddie on sooner than later. So
yeah, it's great to have him on, and this is I just love getting all these different perspectives.
Yeah, I didn't know, I'd heard about the Explorers Club, but I didn't really know what it was. I kind of knew there was like some kind of stories behind it, and there was characters, but I didn't really know that much about it and the connections. And now I'm really excited when I go into the parks to look for some of the things that Freddie had pointed out to us, and I hope our listeners will too. Check out his website. It's really neat and detailed. Has a lot of information all in there for you. But yeah, and also check out his podcast. He mentioned that both his podcasts he is a host of. Also, I'd love for you to leave reviews. We read the ones that are on iTunes. We didn't have any new ones this time around, but we hope to next time. So if you've been listening to this show for more than one episode, go on over to iTunes or Apple Podcast and leave us a review, and we will read it on our next episode. And really appreciate it. It does help us out, and
helps
us out.
It helps people find the podcast. So.
Yeah, it also helps, it spreads the word. And then also what really helps us out is by subscribing to us and, That way you don't miss any episodes.
It's free, you know.
It is free.
And if you can, subscribe to us in more than one place. There's nothing wrong with doing that, you know.
Sure, I do it. No, I don't. All right. Well, thank you so much for listening. Really appreciate it, and hope you got something out of the show. I know I did, and we'll talk with you next time.